Hey, it's Thomas here, and today we're going to be checking out one of the smallest sump options that, despite its tiny size, has some pretty big useful features. So let's get up close and personal with Eshopps Aquafuge Cube Nano. Sumps come in all different shapes and sizes, but really small sumps are always trickier to find, especially feature-rich ones, probably because not too many nano-sized reef tanks actually use a sump and instead tend to be some sort of all-in-one system. So what do you do when you want your tiny tank drilled with its own tiny overflow to have its own tiny sump? Eshopps is helping to solve that conundrum with the Aquafuge Cube Nano. This very compact sump, while being pretty simple, really focuses on giving nano reefers a solid compact sump with just enough room for a good skimmer, refugium, and return pump, while still incorporating a quiet water entry system, mechanical filtration, and an adjustable baffle for water height control in a very sleek little package, so that you don't have to go do your own 10 or 20 gallon DIY sump. Instead, you get this beauty. One sec. Yeah, there we go. Really digging the white and blue. In the box, along with the sump, you'll also find the corrugated drain hose, a filter sock, and the instructions. The Aquafuge Cube sumps actually come in two sizes, the Nano that you see right here, as well as a medium size. The medium's a bit larger and has a pair of bulkheads for drains instead of just one, like the Nano version, but we're gonna focus on this tiny Nano for this video. Since a lot of the features are identical, you can keep the medium size in mind if you want something a touch larger that's going to work with your hereby style overflow system. The Nano comes in at just 14 by 14 by 16 inches. It's going to be a good fit for small cube tanks and should fit quite comfortably in those stands. With that said, you could also sneak it into some stands meant for smaller standard aquariums. It's rated for aquariums between 10 and 35 gallons and provides an impressive 7.5 by 8.5 inch skimmer section, a 5 inch by 8.5 inch refugium section, and a 3.5 inch by 5.5 inch return section. With just a single bulkhead for a drain line on the Aquafuge Cube Nano, it is going to be a really great fit for simpler style overflow systems like the X-Aqua In-Out that I have on this 12-gallon bookshelf tank. It only needs a single drain line to the sump and then a single return back up to the overflow. With that said, it would take minimal effort to add a secondary drain over top of the skimmer or refugium section for overflow systems that use the hereby method and require that auxiliary or backup drain. Now the flow path on this sump is pretty interesting. Water enters the sump through the bulkhead and then immediately has two separate flow paths. One that diverts some of the water to the refugium section, and the other path goes through the filter sock and then into the skimmer section. The water that flows through the refugium section will then travel through a large vertical baffle with an equally large coarse foam pad, then underneath the skimmer section to the return section. The water from the skimmer section will go directly to the return section through that adjustable baffle, which gives you the ability to adjust the water height of the skimmer section to match the needs of the skimmer that you're using. It is quite an interesting design, and I think they did a really good job of managing the flow in such a compact sump so that your skimmer and refugium don't have water ripping through it full force. The 5.5 by 8.5 inch refugium section is going to be plenty big enough for your macroalgae needs, and for reference is roughly the same volume as my two smaller macroalgae reactors. It's definitely going to be easy to light with any puck style refugium LED or even the submersible Tunes EcoChic options. If for whatever reason macroalgae is not your thing, no big deal. It is more than enough space for a variety of popular biomedia options or smaller media reactors, so either way this space is going to prove itself to be valuable. Now, at 7.5 by 8.5 inches, the skimmer section is plenty big enough for a number of compact in-sump protein skimmers, which again, I am really impressed with. Being able to get a good skimmer into a super small sump is a challenge that I have faced in the past, and knowing that there are more than a handful of options, including the Eshopps S120, is awesome. If you ever really want to save space in that skimmer section, in case you ever want to add an internal piece of gear or even another pump for an external media reactor or sterilizer, Eshopps also makes this super tiny protein skimmer that mounts magnetically to the side of your sump or into the back of your all-in-one or even right inside your QT tank. It's powered by a little workhorse CJ Micra needle wheel pump, has a silencer and a foam bubble trap, and while it won't haul as much skimmate as its big brother here, it will certainly get the job done for those stocked Pico reefs and low bioload nano systems. Now I'll admit the return section is a tad tight at 3.5 by 5.5 inches, which does narrow down your pump choices a bit, but I am really happy to report it is just enough space for an Octo Varios 2, which is a super reliable controllable DC pump with a lot going for it, including an auto shutoff switch so it doesn't run dry. In other words, I guess what I'm saying is, if I'm going to run this sump, I am 10 out of 10 going to run this pump. And for those that like everything matchy-matchy, this pump's white with a red base, and on the other side of the sump here, you can see the drain tube is red, so this little pump matches perfectly. When it comes to maintenance, I think this sump's gonna be pretty easy to work with one caveat that has a pretty easy workaround, but we'll touch on that in just a sec. First off, there is a lid over top of the filter sock, so you won't need to worry about salt spray or splashes, and the door is plenty big enough to get the sock and your hand in and out of without any Cirque du Soleil level contortionism, which is another issue I've had with small sumps in the past, but not this one. The large coarse foam pad easily slides in and out, and it's vertical when you remove it, so managing drips over top of the sump is going to be a cakewalk. The only part of this sump that might be a little bit trickier to clean is that pair of baffles that sandwich the foam pad and the channel that travels under the floating skimmer section. There are lots of different sponges or brushes on a handle that you can fit in between the roughly 3/4 inch space when it does require a scrub, and it's easy enough to get a tube attached to a pump underneath the skimmer section, so you just want to pick up those items as well when you grab the sump to make cleaning those particular spots a lot easier. If the Eshopps AquaCube Nano matches your teeny tiny reefing mantra, you can go ahead and pick one up for yourself by clicking right here.